But I want to talk about Israel now because Israeli tanks have rolled into the centre of Rafah for the first time on a day where more than 20 people were killed in further shelling of tent camps following Sunday's refugee zone airstrike that left 45 people dead. That triggered global outrage. But interestingly, the United States apparently doesn't believe Israel's actions in Rafah, which is of course that large town in the city, I should say, in the south of Gaza, where they say there are lots and lots of Hamas terrorists that they want to take out. It's the sort of last stronghold of Hamas. The US apparently does not believe Israel's actions amount to a major ground operation that could, if it were a major ground operation, cross a red line for President Joe Biden and trigger a possible change in US policy. That's according to the White House. Well, no better man to, or woman indeed, to talk about this than Colonel Simon Diggins. He's a defence analyst. Simon, are the Americans kind of couching their words a little bit here? What's going on?
No, I think they are. I mean, on the one hand, they've been very clear right from the very beginning that Israel has the right to defend itself and also to engage and to defeat Hamas. And that hasn't really changed. But we've also heard this whole concern, quite right concern, about the humanitarian effects of what they're trying to do. And they're trying to gauge at the moment where Israel is and what Israel's trying to do. Israel's trying to put a picture that when they attack into Rafah, even the attack on Sunday, which had such disastrous consequences, that they were very precise, very targeted. They were very, very clear about that. But something went really badly wrong. And whether it was a missile, whether it was a secondary explosion, reports even today in some of the Israeli papers are suggesting that maybe something caught fire inside one of the tents, which are full of people.
And we just don't know. This is the fog of war, right, Simon, isn't it?
It is totally, but of course, unfortunately, it's predictable. If you are going to try to conduct an attack in this densely populated area, and it was densely populated before the war. I mean, don't forget that Gaza was regarded as the third most densely populated area on Earth. When you then concentrate lots of people down into the area, the consequences or the potential consequences of even a very precisely targeted attack, if it goes wrong, are what we've just seen. And I think that's the dilemma that we've got. So no change to the US policy. We need to engage to defeat Hamas. But the challenge that they've got is how do you do that in what essentially are refugee camps?
What about Israel's policy? Because their tanks are now there. There's a ground war, not just an air war. How does this play out, do you think?
Again, with huge difficulty. I mean, tanks are not precise weapons. You've got the people inside them. But even a tank manoeuvring in narrow areas, can cause casualties, can cause difficulties. I mean, I think the real challenge for Israel is every time they come up with a statement which says, "Here's a legitimate tactical target," people may or may not agree with that. That's what the ICC says is all about. All this. What does this look like in the end? How does this small tactical victory, yet they killed two senior Hamas commanders on Sunday, how does that balance against the strategic impact, the consequences of what they were doing? And I think that's what people are really after from Israel. What does the day after look like? So even if you manage to eliminate these 4 Hamas battalions that are supposedly in the south at the moment, where does that leave you in terms of control, order, some kind of peaceful solution for the rest of Gaza?
And the answer is absolutely. There is, Simon, so much consternation and debate within Israel itself politically because you have so many different people like Benny Gantz, for example, on the war cabinet threatening to resign, saying there should be a next day plan. What happens when/if Hamas are actually defeated? So Netanyahu and whoever's in power, and that may well be a new prime minister after their election, whenever it happens, another big question. And there's so many questions about what Gaza looks like, who is it administered by, and what Israel's relationship with it is.
No, absolutely. I mean, Netanyahu has been very clear. He doesn't see any legitimate way forward for us a two-state solution. But that is the formal position proposal that's sitting on the table. And as one Israeli commentator said right at the very beginning, you either have a two-state solution or you have a one-state solution. And if you have a one-state solution, then Israel really ceases to be Israel as it is, because the sheer demographics of the numbers, the relative balance of population of Palestinians and Jewish Israelis means that effectively Israel as the home primarily of the Jews in the Middle East would disappear. And so there is at the moment no coherent sense where we get from where we are now, this series of tactical engagements, eliminating one by one Hamas, and goodness knows, these are bad, evil people, but no way you can see a progress from that through to the day after, which the immediate day after is how are you going to control the Gaza Strip? And we saw what happened in northern Gaza when the Israelis started to move their offensive down into the south of the country, and then Hamas reinfiltrated back into the north, and so Israel had to go back into the north as well. Now you can just imagine this kind of just moving around like a sort of rather grim game of sort of ping pong from north to south.
Well, indeed, and the innocent civilians, the innocent Palestinians caught up in the middle of all of that. Simon, thank you so much. That's Colonel Simon Diggins, who is not only a defence analyst, but actually my favourite defence analyst. He is brilliant